Hi there, John Wilkinson here and History Made Easier. In this video I'm going to talk about numbers, when they matter and when they don't matter. And I'm going to talk about a phenomenon that took America by storm in the 1920s, the flappers. Now America's population in 1920 was a little bit over 106 million people. By 1930, it was a little bit shy of 123 million people. Half of those numbers were women or girls, roughly 50%. Maybe a little bit more in 1920 because of the death toll in World War I, but nevertheless, roughly 50% of a population at any time is female. Now, of that population in America in the 1920s, 50% lived in rural America. So 50% of women lived in rural America, and they were not flappers. Something like a staggering 60% of Americans lived on or below the poverty line. So 60% of women did. They were not flappers, definitely. Another group that I think we should consider in their own right, African Americans or Black Americans. They constituted something like 10% of the American population. And so 10% of women. And they were not flappers either. Another group, new immigrants. Now in 1920, 13% of Americans had not been born in America. They were the new immigrants, and they mostly took very low-paid work. They were not flappers, or the women amongst them were not flappers either. So what does this tell us? It tells us that the flappers did not represent the life experiences of the vast majority of American women. And that's important for us to understand. Nevertheless, though they were a small size of the American population, a small percentage of the American population, the flappers were nevertheless very, very significant. Sociologists talk about deviants. Deviants are groups of people who deviate from the norms of society, the way society expects us to behave, expects us to be. And in doing that, they push the boundaries, they push them forward and change the way we expect groups to behave. And that's certainly something that the flappers did. They pushed the boundaries, they changed the expectations of women's behaviour. They railed against what was in the 1920s expected of women. They were having nothing to do with it. They liberated women in that sense. And so, even though things stepped backwards with the Great Depression in the 1930s, nevertheless, the long-term impact of the flappers changed the lives of women forever. And so they are, though small in numbers, highly significant. but they did not represent the normal life experiences of American women in the 1920s. So numbers don't matter, but numbers do matter. I hope that gives you a useful perspective on the flappers. As always, I thank you for listening. And as always, I do remind you to check out my History Made Easier website. The information in this video will be put on that website. Cheers for now.